Hi, in this video I just want to show you a great tool. It is called Pandoc and it allows you to convert a markdown file into a Beamer presentation. In fact, you're not even limited to convert a markdown file into a Beamer presentation or a presentation as you can see here on my screen, but you can convert this markdown file to practically any format. We can create a PowerPoint presentation, a web page, a PDF document, and even more. So almost there is no limit to the file that we can convert with Pandoc. However, in this video, I'm going to mostly focus on how to convert a markdown file into a beautiful presentation like the one that you can see here on my screen. So we have a title slide, we have a table of content, sections, frames, which is the text. I refer to frames because in Beamer they're called frames, but they are basically slides. You have links, formatting, and so forth. I will explain you everything, how to get started, how to install Pandoc, how to install LaTeX compiler, and how to create this beautiful presentation. However, before starting, I just would like to tell you my take on Pandoc. Pandoc is fantastic and it allows you to do practically everything. I will show you later that you can also add references, reference figures into the text. However, at one point it becomes quite complex to set up your markdown file. And then at a certain point, if you want to really create a very complex presentation, in that case, I would actually suggest you to use Beamer. I have already a video tutorial on Beamer, which I will put a link here, so you will see a card coming up on a Beamer playlist, so you can also have a look at that and you can compare the two. Beamer is a little bit harder to learn, but then eventually once you have learned it, it has no limit to the thing that you can implement. With Pandoc is a fantastic tool. I don't have anything wrong to say about Pandoc, but if you want to create a very complex presentation or a very complex paper, it's still converting something from a markdown language to a Beamer presentation. So at one point you might face some issues. So it's very important that you understand which type of project you want to get started with, and if you just want to put like a few lines of code together to just create a simple presentation, that would be fantastic. And as you can see on my screen, eventually the presentation doesn't have to be even that simple. You can create quite a complex presentation with math equation and so forth. So let's get started. We're going to first see how to install Pandoc and MKText very quickly. Then we're going to start with a very simple presentation. It's not going to be looking as beautiful as this one, but I just want to show you the basic concepts. Then we're going to move into how to create a complex presentation. You can find the timeline below under, so you can skip from one section to the other. I will share my source code online on GitHub, so don't worry too much about the source code. You can always copy it, and you can always read more and find out more in the Pandoc official documentation. It is extremely well written. I will put a link down in the video description below. As usual, if you like this type of video, please consider liking my video, subscribing to my channel, and if you want to be notified when I release a new video, don't forget to press on the bell icon. So let's get started. The first thing that we need to do is actually to install Pandoc. In order to install Pandoc, it's super simple. You can just do a simple Google search and then you can find Pandoc, and here there is the installer for Windows. So I'm on pandoc.org, installing.html. Here I can click here and it can install it on my computer. I can check that I have Pandoc installed on my computer if I go in the terminal. So here I'm going to use PyCharm. You don't have to use PyCharm. It's going to work equally well if you're using VS Code or any other IDE. To this extent, you can even use Notepad. It doesn't really matter. So we can just type Pandoc and then type -v, and this is going to tell us the version of Pandoc that we have installed. So as you can see here, I have Pandoc installed and there is no problem in that case for me. Then I need to install also MKTeX if I want to compile a PDF using LaTeX. If you want to just create a simple HTML file, you don't need the MKTeX, but I highly encourage you to install it if you want to create a Beamer presentation, and that's what I believe you are here for. So you can just search for mktex.org, you can go in the download here, and then you can download MKTeX for your operative system. So I have Windows, I can click here on download. Alternatively, on the Pandoc website, they also show you how to install SVG converter, Python, and MKTeX, just in case you don't have them, using Choco. So you can install Chocolately, and then with this command, you can install all these packages. So let's see, and let's get started with a very simple file. So here I have created two presentations. So one is called presentation.markdown, and the other one is called simple presentation.markdown. So I can just navigate here just to show you what I'm doing. It's very simple. I'm just here in presenter mode, so you cannot see much, but I'm inside C user my username, downloads, and pandoc, I just simply created a folder inside the downloads, and inside over there I have all my files. So just let me bring this one up for you so it doesn't look confusing. So here I am in downloads, pandoc, and inside here I have my files. So let me just close this one and we can navigate from here. So I like to have all my source files here in the root directory. So in this case, this project is called pandoc. So we have the presentation.md and the simple presentation.md markdown. It could also be a text file if you want to. I use it in markdown, so I can also have markdown mode here on PyCharm. I will show you that in a second. I have a bib file in which I have included a couple of references here. So they are formatted using bib. If you want to find out more, I have a lot of videos on how to enter references in LaTeX. I will reference to those if you don't understand exactly what is this thing, but this is just a bib entry. So this is how you cite articles in LaTeX. We have a README in which I have listed all the commands that I'm going to use in this video tutorial. And we have presentation and simple presentation. So let's start with simple presentation. Let me collapse the project navigation window. And here, let's go and start compiling this document. So here, as you can see, is very simple. I have percentage sign in order to write the title. Then I use a percentage sign to write my name and my surname. I'm adding also the date. This is going to be the title slide, which I want to show you. Then I'm going to have a section. How can we create a session? Well, it's super simple. We can just use an hash here. So one hash is going to create a session, and two hashes is going to create a frame, also called slide. So actually, let's put slide as well. So let's go and grab the command, and I will show you also how the default command in pandoc is usually written. So we can go back to the README here, and we can get the first command here. So let's see what we need to do in order to run the command. Actually, let me write it for you the first time. So we can write pandoc, and then here we have to specify T, the letter T, Beamer. This is going to tell pandoc that we want to compile it with Beamer. Then we have to say the source file. In this case, we are going to compile the simple-presentation.markdown file, and we have to specify the output file. I want to put my output file in the out directory, which I've already created, and the file is going to be called simple-presentation.pdf. Let's compile this. Actually, let's first go in the out folder because I've already a lot of files over there. So just we want to compile everything from scratch. As you can see now, we can no longer see that file because we just have deleted. And as you can see here, I have a directory called out, a folder called out inside my main directory. So let's compile this. One important thing to note is a little bit slow. I mean, unfortunately, it is a little bit slow because when you compile with LaTeX, it takes a little bit of time. So every time you will compile your presentation, it's going to take a little bit of time. I will also show you a kind of a workaround that you can prepare your presentation first using HTML, which is going to be super quick, but it's not going to render very well because you're not going to write custom CSS. And then once you see that it looks like as you want, then you can create a Beamer presentation. But let's go step by step because I don't want to confuse you. So as you can see, it's taking a bit of time, and later on, I'm going to fast forward all this section when it's taking all this time to compile because I don't want to waste your time. But here we can see now that inside out, we have simple presentation. So if I click here on this side view, we can see our presentation. So this is a very simple presentation. As you can see, the view factor of the slide is not very nice because it's not in 16:9, the ratio. So with a very simple markdown file that we have here, we can create this presentation, and it's very nice. It's starting looking very nice. So we have the title slide, pandoc simple presentation, my name followed by my surname. Here we have date and time. Then we have the first section. We have the first frame or slide with a list. This is a standard markdown. So a list can be done either using like the asterisk or the dash. Then we have a second frame here, which we have a second type of list, which in this case is going to look exactly as the first, but we created using an asterisk. And then we can change the format of the text. We can use italics, bold, or we could even use strike through. If you want to add strike through, in this case, PyCharm helps me because I can just double click on the text and then I can click here, strike through, and this is going to create the text strike through. Then we have a second section here. We have another slide which we have text with link. So this link is going to be clickable, and if I actually spell properly the URL, so that is going to be fine when you download it. So here we have the text with link. So if now I'm just going to compile it while I explain. So this link is going to be clickable, and we can click it and we can navigate to the Google, basically, do a Google search. And finally, inside here, we have an image. Where we get the image from and where is the image is located. So here inside my project, we have a folder called images, and we're going to have two images, pandoc.png, which is the image that you can see here on the screen, and the same image, but just small. It can be any format, it doesn't have to be PNG, it can also be JPEG, and so forth. So here, once this document compiles, we're going to be able to click the link and visit the web page. So this is a very simple presentation, but as you can see, with very little code, we have created a presentation. And it's very nice and easy to manage it. And we can add a new section, we can change stuff. So let me refresh this page here. And then now we have the text with the link. As you can see, now we can see that if I click here, I get redirected to google.com. And I can open it with any PDF reader, so let me actually show you that. So I can go inside here, simple presentation, right click, open in Explorer. So now that I've opened it in Explorer, I can actually click on it. So here we are in Pandoc. I can go in Out folder, and I can open the simple presentation. And this we are going to use any PDF reader. I'm going to be using Foxit Reader in this case. We have just a dual screen, okay, here, so we can see the presentation. And as I showed you before, now we have the straight-through text as well. And if I click on this link here, we get redirected to Google. Okay, so we can allow and we can open the web browser. No need to do that. Let's move to the next step, because at the beginning I mentioned that you're not limited to create a PDF presentation, but you can also create a web page and so forth. How can we do that? Well, we can use a very similar command, but we just have to specify a different type of output. So let me collapse this navigation window here. Let me split this tab here. So here on the right, we're going to still have the PDF. Here on the left, I'm going to open the readme.markdown file, and I want to show you the next one. So the next one is to create an HTML. So we can create an HTML here with the same command, similar as before, pandoc-t HTML-s. We're not going to add S stands for source. We can say simple presentation.markdown, and the output is a simple presentation website HTML. This is going to be just an HTML, and as you can see, it was super fast in this case. So let me open that file. Let me open that file for you. So here we can look for simple presentation.html. Here we can see all the HTML that was generated, and again, here is in the project directory, so I'm just trying to keep it nice and neat here so you can see what I'm doing. If I click on Google Chrome, this is going to open my presentation. It's not going to be a presentation, but it's actually going to be a website. So I apologize if I say presentation, but this is going to be just a website. And this is also fantastic because we get a website practically with no effort and no issue. We have a problem here rendering the image because technically if you want to render the image, the website has to be in the same location as the image. So that's something that we need to keep in mind. Let's move to the next thing that I want to show you, how to create actually a presentation in HTML. So in this case, we are going to use, again, a variation of the same command before. So in this case, instead of output as HTML, we want to create a slidey output. So we have the same source file, but we are going to create a different output, but still an HTML file, and we are specifying slidey. Let's see what happens. So here I can open this file. So in this case, we call it simple presentation. HTML. So the file now content, the HTML has changed. If I click here on Google Chrome, we can actually see that we have a very nice presentation, and again, it took almost no time. So we can navigate in this presentation with the right arrow, and we have all the slides. As you can see, since we didn't add any CSS, it's going to look like simple, but we have a slide counter here at the bottom. We have the section slide text, we have the link that we have added, so we can go to Google if you want to. So it's quite handy. I think for this little effort, we get a lot out from Pandoc, if we want to. Same problem as before with the image, so we need to make sure that if you want to see the image, this HTML file has to be in the same folder as where the image is, or we need to specify the sources. Okay, great. The last thing that I want to show you, I promise with this simple presentation, is also how to create a PowerPoint presentation. So here this command is not it, so let me cancel that. So we can create a PowerPoint presentation with this command here. Same story as before. In this case, we don't even have to specify which output it is, just the name of the markdown file, and specify the location. We want to save it in the output folder, so we can say simple presentation.powerpoint. We can navigate back to here. We can see that in out, this simple presentation was generated. So let me bring out my file explorer. here, you can see the simple presentation. So if I double click, now we can see the PowerPoint presentation. Again, I think this is amazing with such a little effort. And even if you want to get started using you can start with Markdown and create a PowerPoint in almost no time without having to worry to just put all the text in, and this create all the slides for you, and there is the image here. So I think is great. Now that we have seen all the things that we can do, let's see even more, and let's see how we can start styling our presentation, make it more beautiful, and add a lot more functionalities. So in this case, I'm just going to copy this command here, down here. So we're going to have it in our terminal. I'm going to collapse this project view. I'm going to actually unsplit all the screen. So let me just open the main presentation file. So this is our main Markdown file. And I'm going to split the screen, and on the right side, I'm going to have the presentation as we generated. So let's compile this document. It's going to take some time, but while we are compiling it, I'm going to show you all the things that I've done. So I'm just going to mention it right now, and then we don't have to go over it again. So we have pandoc t beamer. So beamer, we are going to use beamer to compile the document, and then the source of the bibliography is going to be the bib.bib file. I just call it like that. I could have called it bibliography.bib. It is very important that it has the extension of bib. The name can be any name that you can choose. Then we have specifying the source file, which is presentation.markdown, and the output file. The output file is going to be in output folder followed by presentation.pdf. So this is the last file that we're going to generate, and we're going to go over all the commands and all the things that we can specify. I would keep this as the last step. So if you are happy with this type of presentation, I would definitely use Pandoc, and I think it's a great tool, and as you can have seen. If you want to go one level higher and start modifying a lot of other things, then I would really encourage you to start looking into moving to Beamer, because Beamer offers you a lot of functionalities. Unfortunately, the source code of Beamer and LaTeX is going to be a little bit more complex to navigate compared with a simple Markdown file. So here is still compiling. I'm going to just fast forward this section. One thing that I wanted to mention is that don't worry too much about such a long compilation time. Usually it takes a bit of time, but I'm running a lot of processes on my computer because I'm also recording this video, and I'm running other software in the background, so usually it's going to be a little bit quicker. So here we can see that the file has been generated. So we can search for the presentation file, which is called presentation.pdf here, which is the file that we just have created. So let's go step by step. I will show you all the command and how to generate this file, and what are all the things that I've added to this document. So I'm going to zoom this one, and we're going to go slide by slide. So here in the preamble, that you can see that is the preamble, but because we have 3 dashes at the top and 3 dashes here at the bottom, we can specify all the config. Of course, we are a little bit more limited, as I just previously mentioned, compared with LaTeX, but we can still provide a lot of information, such as the title, the author, the institute, and the type of theme. I really like this Metropolis theme, so I normally use it, and I think it looks great. Then I have the font theme, which is default, font size, which is 11 point. You can specify that. You can specify the type of URL color, and this is just to show you. You can also change the link color and so forth. You can also specify the link style. It's going to be bold. Aspect ratio, I like to be 16:9. You can also specify a logo, and I show you where it is located inside images and pandoc-small. Then we have the date, which is today's date when I recorded the video. We have section titles, false, but we have TOC, table of content, true. So I'm going to remove it and I'm going to compile it. So I'm going to show you, once it's done with the compiling, that the table of content, which is just this one here, which is very nice because it's clickable. So if you click here, general information, I'm going to be redirected to the section. This table of content is going to go away once I recompile it. So let's move to the other slide. So here we have the first section. And how can we generate a section? Well, we saw before with a simple hash here. So we have general information, and then we can create slides with a double hash. So here we have themes and fonts. I would like to thank Alexey Gumirov for putting together this main Markdown file where I got it from, and then I've added something of my own, like how to add references and figures. So this is going to be similar to his GitHub repository. So here we have the first slide. So we have double hash, we have themes and font, and inside here we are specifying as a list how we made this presentation. And as you can see, we have nice this logo here at the bottom. Of course, if you want to remove it, you can modify here, and you can remove the logo here. Then we have the second slide here, which we have links. So we have links to the Beamer themes and the font themes. Of course, the theme, you can also have it here. So in Markdown, let me just show you. So you can wrap the text with a square braces, and then here you can put the link. So when I'm going to recompile the document, we'll see that this link is like actually this Beamer Teams is clickable. As you can see before, it compiled and the table of content was gone. So we can come back after about this Beamer Teams. Let's go back. Let's go down to one slide more. So we have another section which is formatting. We have the text formatting we saw already before. Then we can also have notes, and to add notes we can have this symbol here which is greater than, and we have another slide, and we can also have blocks. So here in this slide here we have blocks. In order to create a block we need to have triple hash here, and this is a block A. We can also have a block without having a title and or a header, and we can have the text inside, and inside the third block we have another list. Presentation was updated, and we can go back to the link. As you can see here now Beamer Teams is clickable. So let's go back here to the listing, code listing. So code listing, so we have 3 grave accent, and then we can specify the language. So we can have Bash language or we can have Python. Then we can have tables, and tables are specified just simply using Markdown. So in Markdown you just have to have the heading, a space, a vertical tab, another space, you have the 3 headings, and then here it tells how the text is aligned. First column is left aligned, the second column is right aligned because we have a column here, and then we don't have a column here at the end. Here we have a column only on the right, so it's going to be right aligned, and the last column is going to be center aligned because we have a column before the dashes and after. The number of dashes here are not important, so you can change that. And inside here we have all the items inside the column. Then we have another slide in which we have a picture. In order to add a picture is very similar to adding a link, but in this case we are going to have to add an exclamation mark in front of the square braces. Now let's see also how we can change the size of the picture, because as you can see here the picture is actually a bit too big for this slide here, so we might want to actually change it. So in order to change it, in order to add it on the same row, we can use this command here. So in order to change the height or the width, we can specify height or width inside a curly braces just right after the parentheses. So we have exclamation mark, square braces, and inside the square braces, I forgot to mention before, we have the alt text or the caption text. We cannot actually see the caption here because the image is too big, but I'm going to show it to you later. So here inside we have the caption. Here we have the source of the file that we can actually see here. We have the height that we are specifying, so 10% of the original image. And then if you want to have it on the same line, we can just put this backward slash, and then we can have the second image which is in line. If we put a double here, backward slash, then it's going to be on a new line. Alternatively, to put it in a new line, you can just leave an empty space between the two images. Okay? So then we have a list. We have already seen list before. So we have list, we saw it before. So we've already seen list before. We can also have a nested or indented item here. You just have to put 4 spaces here. You just have to indent it. Then we can also add LaTeX. So Markdown is a bit limited in functionalities, but here, as you can see, we can add complex equations. We can add some LaTeX command. So we can, if we want to italicize the text, for instance, we can use this LaTeX command, which is text it curly braces, and then we write LaTeX. So we can have a footnote, and in order to add a footnote, you add this caret. So you add this caret here, and inside the square braces, you just have to write the text of the footnote, and the footnote will appear here at the bottom of your slide. So this, I think, is also very nice because you can have complex math equations. If you want, you can also have 2 columns, because right now we have seen that all the content is not divided in 2 columns, but we can also divide it in 2 or more columns. So in order to add columns, you need to add them using this command here. So it's 3 column symbols, a space, and then you specify the columns, because this is what is wrapping. What is wrapping inside are the 2 columns. So we have the first column here and the second column here. On the left side and the right side, inside the column, you can then specify whatever you want, but you just need to make sure that here you're putting 4 and here you're putting 3. If you put the wrong number, then your document is not going to compile, it's going to give you an error, or it's going to be formatted in the wrong way. Not all the columns do need to have the same width. We can also specify the width of the column. So how can we do that? Here, instead of saying just column here, we can specify the column width. So we can do that with curly braces, then inside dot column, and then specify the width, 40% and here 60%. Just keep in mind that the sum has to make 100. And of course, you can have 3, 4, 5, 6 columns. I wouldn't encourage you to have more than 3 columns because otherwise everything is going to be too packed inside your slide. But again, we have the command here columns, which is going to be ended here at the bottom. And then inside here, we have the 3 nested columns. So we have the first one, the second one, and the third one. Again, the total of these widths should make 100, otherwise your content is going to be either on the left or too much on the right. So let's see again what we can do. As I mentioned before, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because we've already seen that inside the column itself, we can put whatever we want. We can put an image, we can put some text, we can put a table, doesn't really matter. We can do whatever we want. Then the last thing that I want to show you, because I think is very important, especially if you're writing a scientific presentation, is how to add references and how to add citations and how to reference figures inside your text. So let's go step by step. So here we have the references section. So here we have citation, which is the slide. So you can reference a BibTeX entry, the one that I showed you before. So let me open the file again. So here we can open the bib file. And as you can see, here I have my BibTeX entry. So we need to use this unique key here. So is my surname in this case, 2020A, and my surname. This unique key, of course, has to be unique. That's why it's called unique key. So you can have as many BibTeX entry as you want, but each key has to be different. So as you can see here, I'm referencing them. How do I reference them? I just put them inside a square braces here, and then I put a @ symbol. I put the unique key that we got from there, from the BibTeX entry. And if you want to add more than one, you just have to put a semicolon with no space in between your references. And as you can see here, I'm referencing both of my papers. And if I want to add a single reference, just square braces, @ and then the unique key. You can also reference figures. Let's see how you can do it. Let's actually fix this one because there is an error. So I'm actually referencing now figure 2 and figure 2 again. So what is this figure 2 and how can we reference the figure? So we already seen how to add a figure. So here we have an exclamation mark, square braces. Inside the square braces, there is the caption of the figure. So we say this is the caption. And as you can see here, we can see this is the caption. So all good so far. We have already seen that. Then inside here, the caption, we can also specify a label. So we specify that the label of this image here is called first. And here, in the second slide, here, figure 3, we're specifying that the label of this figure here is second. So we are going to reference first and second. Let me go here in the terminal, I recompile the document while I explain, so it's going to recompile the document. So you can see that now there is an error. So I was referencing first and then first before, but now we want to reference first and second. So this is compiling our document. So this is going to update this number from 2 to 3. So great, it finished to compile, and as you can see now we fixed that error. So if I click on figure 2, it's actually showing me the figure 2 at the top. If I click on figure 3, it's going to show me the figure 3. As you can see, it's like bringing it up all the way there to the view. Can you see? It's actually bringing all the slide over there. It's probably a problem of this PDF viewer inside PyCharm, but this is bringing us at the beginning of the document, and especially because right now I'm in presentation mode. So we fixed that error. We can move to the next slide. And as we saw before, we can also specify the height. So we can also have a fancier layout. So at the beginning of the slide, we can have a block here, called proposal, a list inside, and then we can have the text split into 2 columns using the same command as we used before. So we have the command columns, and then we have 4 columns symbols, followed by column, and then here we have a code block. We stop this one, and then we have the second column, and we close the columns environment. Then as you can see, we have the conclusion in the same slide here, so we have another code block, so you can really arrange the text as you want to. So we have a block, column, 2 columns, and then we have another block, and then at the end I wanted to show you how to add references. So in order to add references, you just have to add a new slide, and then inside here you need to have 3 columns, and then here you just have to specify reps. This is going to print all your references in your bibliography. I really hope you find this video interesting. If you did, please consider liking and subscribing to my channel. If you want to support my channel, you can also do so by buying me a coffee or by supporting me on Patreon. More information down in the video description below. If you want to find out more about Beamer, you can look at my Beamer playlist. I also have a video on Slide Dev, which I think is a fantastic tool that allows you to convert Markdown presentation into amazing presentation which you can show on the web. I think that's also a very good tool, and just check it out. I will put a card at the end of this video. Thank you very much for listening, and see you in the next video.